What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Neon Spotlight. This is the segment on my channel where I go back through Neon's entire catalog from the first film they produced all the way until whenever I get caught up. And the movie I'm going to be discussing today, I've actually already seen before, and the reason why I watched this movie initially is because I am a huge fan of Aubrey Plaza. She is one of my favorite actresses. I love the roles that she chooses to be involved in. For a while, she did a lot of mainstream comedies, but I feel like now she always is involved in these really unique independent art house movies that always really take me by surprise. And I remember really enjoying this movie the first time I watched it, but it's been a few years now, so I didn't remember it exactly, but I'm looking forward to talking about it with you today. And the film I'm going to be discussing is Ingrid Goes West. Ingrid Goes West is directed by Matt Spicer. Ingrid becomes obsessed with a social network star named Taylor Sloan, who seemingly has a perfect life. But when Ingrid decides to drop everything and move west to be Taylor's best friend, her behavior turns unsettling and dangerous. So, as I said, I really enjoyed this movie the first time I watched it, and I enjoyed it about equally this time. I don't think it's a perfect movie. It has some pacing issues, and I think there are some things in the execution that could be tidied up a little bit, but I really like the message of the film and what it's trying to convey overall, and I do think by the third act of the movie, it's incredibly effective, and it's definitely a worthwhile viewing experience, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about it today. So at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to Ingrid, played by Aubrey Plaza, and we see her in her car sobbing uncontrollably, and she's scrolling through someone's social media feed, and one of her seemingly friends is getting married at that moment, and she gets out of her car, goes up to the bride, and ends up pepper spraying her. And we learned that she didn't really know this girl at all. She kind of like stalked her on social media. They had like one or two interactions, and that her obsession became so intense that she felt like she was having an authentic friendship. And so she ends up checking herself into a rehabilitation center to try to fight these urges that she's had. And she gets out, goes back to her house, and we find out that a little bit before all that happened, her mother passed away from a terminal illness, and she does not have a lot of friends, and she lives on her own. Well, she's online, and she ends up finding this social media of Taylor, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and she's immediately like obsessed with the way she presents herself online, and she comments on one of her posts, and Taylor comments back and says, hey, if you're ever out in the California in this area, you should come eat at this restaurant. And so she's like, oh my god, this girl acknowledged me. And her mother just passed away and left her, I think, like $60,000. And so she goes, takes the money out, and decides, I'm gonna go get an apartment and try to live near this girl to meet her. So she moves out there, rents an apartment from Dan, played by O'Shea Jackson Jr., who is a Batman obsessed nerd that's a screenwriter, and she rents the apartment, and she starts setting up these choice encounters with Taylor, and the two of them eventually get together because she steals Taylor's dog and acts like it got away, and she found the dog and brings it back to her, and the two start to form this friendship. And the entirety of the film is Ingrid's character trying to hold this relationship with Taylor, even though it is seemingly inauthentic. So as I said, I really enjoyed this movie, and I think the strong point of the film is the performances. I love Aubrey Plaza's performance in this movie. I think she does such a great job at having that vulnerability and having that kind of tortured background to where you as an audience member are watching the film saying, why in the hell are you doing this? Why are you putting yourself through all this? But when you think about where she's come from and the isolation and the loneliness that she has experienced, you can also rationalize it to a degree. Obviously not in that extreme circumstance, but I think it makes the movie more conflicting as you're watching it, thinking about what she's going through in her head. And because of her amazing performance, it makes the movie really easy to watch. I really like Elizabeth Olsen. I think she does a really great job playing that like phony influencer personality. Like, it's really easy to see from the very beginning of the film that she is a pretty fake human being. Like, the things things that she does and the way she presents herself online, it's not real. And she tries to act that way around other people, but you can always kind of sense the phony element of her personality. But Ingrid's character doesn't get that. She just wants that connection. She wants to feel something with another human being. She wants that friendship connection. And so we're seeing her with kind of like those starry eyes, where we as an audience member are like, this isn't necessarily real. And we get that through Taylor's boyfriend's character, who can kind of like pick up on her bullshit too. And it's interesting to watch. I really like O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s performance here too. He provides a lot of comedic levity. He's just really talented in the film, and it creates for a world that's easy to invest yourself in. It's pretty well shot, nothing super spectacular. There's enough attention to detail here to make it easy to watch. The soundtrack and the sound design are pretty solid as well. Nothing super special, but like it's a well put together movie that's easy to watch. And I think what I like the most about this movie is there's two things that I feel like it commentates on that are really thoughtful and that sit with you after the movie is over. The first one being, you know, I've spoken about this in a couple of different movies that I've reviewed on my channel before, but we live in the most connected time that we've ever lived in. People will put their entire lives on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and every social media platform. They will post every element of every second of their day. And because of that, it can come across as inauthentic, but it also comes across as people being desperate for friendship and for connection. And in a world where connection should be the most easy and accessible that it ever has been, it's not, because it's so phony what people are putting on the internet. And I think this movie showcases like what someone goes through in their mental health in this type of situation. Ingrid, obviously, she has a speech in the movie about how close she was to her mother and that the two of them were best friends. And she watched her mother go through this terminal illness and die. And like, it's losing your best friend. It's losing the person that you cared about the most, and you're left completely alone. And so you see these people online and you just yearn and strive for that connection. And it's not real, but like you want something to feel real. And that desperation for a connection is something that I feel like a lot of people who have been alone or isolated or feel like it's hard to make friendships can relate to. And obviously it's blown up in this movie to like an extreme degree, but I think blowing it up in that extreme degree makes it really easy for you as an audience member to relate to. And I really like that a lot about this movie. I think that it makes for a really thought-provoking and engaging watch. I also love that it commentates on the kind of like phoniness of influencer culture and how these people will post themselves online and they just truly don't believe a single thing they put on there, whether it be posting at these restaurants that the food tastes like crap, or saying something is their favorite book that they've never actually read, or like doing all of these things to look and appear a very specific way to garner clicks and to garner interest from outsiders so that you can feel popular even though the life that you are living isn't actually realistic. And that's what it's so interesting to live in this day and age, not only with like influencer culture on like Instagram, but like someone like me who does YouTube reviews. I strive so heavily with YouTube to provide you guys very authentic and realistic movie reviews. And this is like my stream of consciousness thought process about movies that I've watched. But there are so many YouTubers and TikTokers and people out there that it just feels like a persona. It doesn't really feel like a lived experience. And a lot of people fall for that kind of phony persona. And it's really interesting to me. And I'm so glad that there is a movie that exists that kind of deconstructs and pulls all of that apart in a way that's really thoughtful. And taking it to that extreme degree makes it all the more poignant. And I have a lot of fun watching this movie. This is the second time that I've seen it, and I would definitely revisit this again. I would say of the 5 movies that I've watched from Neon so far, this is definitely my favorite. And if you've never watched it before, it's streaming for free on Tubi right now, and it's 100% worth your time checking out. So have you seen Ingrid Goes West? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was really entertaining. I think Aubrey Plaza's great. I think Elizabeth Olsen's great. They create a really unique chemistry, and it's a very entertaining movie to watch. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.